Welcome back to History and Freemasonry, where ancient symbols reveal timeless truths. The ancient enemy of Freemasonry and humanity. Throughout history, there has been a war, not just of nations, but of light and darkness, of truth and deception. And at the center of this war stands a misunderstood legacy: Freemasonry. Once a divine science passed down through kings and builders, it was the true Church of Light, led by men like David, Solomon, and Jesus, all masters of the craft. But what happened to this ancient wisdom? Who corrupted it? And who still wages war against it? This is the story of Freemasonry's oldest and most dangerous enemy, the synagogue of Satan. The Bible says David was a man after God's own heart. Solomon built a temple not just of stone, but of celestial design, a blueprint of heaven. And Jesus, called the chief cornerstone, came not to start a new religion, but to restore the original. This original faith was not about dogma. It was about initiation, a path of wisdom, morality, and resurrection. Freemasonry, in its truest form, preserves these truths. Its tools, degrees, and rituals echo the mysteries once taught in Egypt, in the temple, and in the early Church of Jesus and James, what some have called the initiation church. But even in the Bible, the children of Israel turned from God again and again, worshiping false idols, chasing power, and falling into corruption. Behind this betrayal was a force known in Egyptian tradition as Set, the god of chaos, war, and destruction. The Hyksos pharaohs, also known as the shepherd kings, were expelled from Egypt in what Egyptians called the Hyksos expulsion. These were the historical counterparts to the rebellious Israelites, those who followed Set rather than the true creator. Set was the opposite of the great architect, not a builder, but a destroyer. Jesus came to call Israel back to the truth, but he was rejected, not by sinners, but by those who claimed to worship God. John 8:44, NLT. For you are the children of your father the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. The synagogue of Satan turned its fury on him and his brother James, the true head of the Jerusalem church. This was the original Masonic church, based on brotherhood, truth, and light. But after the Jewish War of AD 70, the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, and a new religion rose from the ashes, not Christianity as taught by Jesus, but Rabbinic Judaism, built in Yavne, granted to Josephus Flavius by Titus and Vespasian as reward for his betrayal. Scholars now believe that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was likely a pseudonym for Josephus himself, two names tied to the same location, same moment, same betrayal. Thus began the rise of the Talmud, a collection of texts that, in some versions, blasphemes Christ, calling him a sorcerer, a deceiver, and worse. The Talmud informs us that Jesus should be boiled in semen and shit, that Jesus seduced the people with his penis. The Talmud tells us he was a son of a whore, that he was the reason Herod's temple was destroyed. This is a system built not on light, but on defiance. The Gospels and the Jewish war tell the same story, but from opposite sides, one as gospel, one as conquest. Arthurian legends say it was Josephus, not Judas, who betrayed Jesus, a servant of Vespasian, granted favor by Rome for his treachery. And from this betrayal came Rome's new church, first Rabbinic Judaism, then Roman Catholicism, and eventually the Jesuits. The Jesuits were once warriors for Christ, became infiltrators of truth. They hunted the Knights Templar, they suppressed Masonic teachings, and they rewrote history. They became the enemies of Freemasonry, just like the synagogue of Satan. This war didn't end in Rome. It continued in medieval times, with the persecution of the Templars. It flared in the birth of America, as Masons fought monarchs, and it bled into the Civil War, where elite financiers tied to the same enemy funded both sides. It still rages today, in propaganda, in politics, in institutions that mock truth and light, in the corruption of religion, media, and education, all bought, all misled, by those who still follow Set, the god of inversion, division, and desecration. Freemasonry was never about secrets. It was about light, divine truth passed down through builders, prophets, and kings. It is the legacy of David, Solomon, Jesus, and James. A sacred science stolen, scattered, and suppressed. But it has not been lost. Even now, the tools remain, the degrees still speak, the symbols still shine, calling us to rebuild the true temple, not in Jerusalem, but in the heart of every man who seeks the great architect of the universe. This is not conspiracy. This is history. This is the light the darkness fears. Please like, subscribe, and share to spread the knowledge. Thank you.